Hello and welcome. This is Jo Quincy and CZT, Zenjo Zen Tangle on Facebook. So today I wanted to show you how to draw my tangle Boofont. I created it, a couple of years ago, and I thought I'd give you a little video to show you how to do it. Let's move that one out the way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my dots and a border just on my tile with my pencil. I'm going to draw my border as we normally do with the Zentangle method. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do a wavy line through the middle, just as a string, and then I can divide my tile in half. I'm going to just turn this sideways. So Boofont works very well along a border line. So I'll show you the principles of it. So we start off, it's a very sort of organic tangle, creating an orb. That's our very first start. So once we've done that orb, let me just bring that in a little bit more there. I draw a teardrop shape out from, for me, from the right hand side. Okay, so it tucks in there. And now from this teardrop, I'm going to add what look like petals. And I'm going to start it here, and I'm going to curve this round and bring it down, right back down into that starting point. And I'm literally just going to keep adding these petals, always going back to the start point if we can. And what you want to do is you're going to bring them all the way round, and I'm going to bump them into the initial line. So that's a basic, simple Boofont shape. Okay, so now if I do it on here, I'm going to just move along. I sort of guesstimate so the distance. I want to be putting another one of these little teardrops. So here we go again. There's an orb. Start off with your teardrop shape. You can see I've hollybored a little bit there, and then curve back round. It's a very sort of zen way of drawing, because you just add these curved lines and repeat. Let's do another one. So you can see how you can, depending on the size that you draw them in, how quickly you could fill a space. Okay, I'll pop another one just up here because I want to fill in this space up here. So I'm going to start it here. So you can go in whichever direction you feel most comfortable. And this, then you can extend these so that they link up. You can make these individual if you want. Okay, so we've got a string of Boofont here. Now if I'm going to leave this like this, I quite often fill these little areas in with ink. It sort of gives it a little bit of solidity here. So you can see it's a very nice, soft, flowing tangle. I can fill in ink. If you have little spaces between the leaves or petals, whatever you want to call them, you can just ink those in. Okay, so I'm going to now show you what you can do from here, because okay, so you've gone round your string and you can leave it like that and it can be a border, but you can stack these so it can now become a filler. So I'm going to draw an orb, just nestle it in. You could put it almost anywhere. Nestle it in on the top of those petals, and I'm going to do, starting again with that petal shape. It's a very forgiving tangle. So we've made it into a border. We now can make it into a filler tangle here. Okay, so I probably could have done my first initial petal shape that way. I've just taken one sideways. You know, in the big scheme of things, we don't have to be super duper exact. In fact, anybody that knows me knows that I say, nah, just don't go for perfection. Go for something that you enjoy. Go for what looks nice. And if you need to add an extra petal on the other side, then just do it. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so you can see I've sort of hollyboard some of those. Another orb. Tuck this in behind. And you can keep adding these. Varying the size. You can see you can sort of extend those petal shapes so that they actually do bump into each other, so you actually get it filling the space that you want to fill. And see, I'm just using black and white here. There you can see I'm just imagining where it's gone under the border. So again, I can go back and I can go, oh, there's some little areas to just black out, just to fill in and define where I'm going to pop a little line there. I'm going to do that so that it just completes that little petal shape. So have a little look at your page at where you've tangled. Here you see I can pop another one. And you can start seeing how you could just monotangle a whole tile with Boofont. Just find your little happy place of tangling. In fact, I'm going to do that. It's another case of just thinking, oh no, that space needs to be sort of blacked out there. And you can pop them at slightly different angles so that you can fill this space. And you can just keep adding. As you can see, I'm blacking out as I go along here. And I'm going to do another one, maybe another two, just to give you that impression of how you can use this as a filler. I'd always say, as we do with Zentangle, don't go too small. You know, give yourself enough space to enjoy this tangle. Okay, so you can see how it can work out as a filler. Okay, so that's your basic Boofont. Now, what you can do is, and I was going to do it along here, but what I'll do, yeah, no, I will. I'm going to turn this around, so I'm just adding to this to show you how you can make these different, and I'll show you some finalised examples in a moment. So I've done a string line here, and if I'd left this just as one, I can double up these Boofont. So I can say, okay, so I'm going to pop one, say I put one here. You can now start doing them opposite. I mean, you're drawing them the same direction, but you're reflecting the ones you did first of all on the other side of the string line. So that I'll pop another one here. So you can get a sort of more floral, I'm going to do another bit just there, a more floral border, so it's on both sides of the string line. I'll pop one just about here. You see, I'm not worrying particularly about where I put these. I sort of, you get a feel of where you want these petal shapes to be, or where your next Boofont is. I'm a little bit further away from this one, so I just extend those petals out, and that makes it pop in and you bump them into each other. So we'll do a couple more down here just to complete this border. Okay, so take it up and bring it back into that starting point. So how did it get its name, Boofont? I was teaching this for the first time online to a one-to-one student, Janine, in Virginia, she lives. And I said, oh, what do you think of this? And we went through it, and she was drawing it. Now, I didn't have a name for it. And when she'd done hers, she said, oh, mine look like those Boofont hairstyles, spelt Boufant. And we laughed, and so the Boofont hairstyle became Boofont, this tangle. And so that's how simply the name came about. And that's so often the way with Zentangle. Something leads to something else, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to bring that down there and just take that to there. So now you have a row of Boofonts coming down this way. So from starting off with one row, you can go to a filler, you can go the other side. How would you shade this? Shading, I've got my pencil here, and I'm just going to say, well, you can choose whichever way you would like to shade, really. I'm going to do this section over here, so I'm just going to say, well, you can just make it shade all the way around that little orb and feed it out. That's probably the most simple, as I blow away little bits of paper. So that accentuates the orb, and obviously you can go and play with that and do all sorts of things with it. So there's a sort of very simple shade, which gives it, brings this centre, makes that deeper. Another way you can do it, takes a little bit longer, but if you just put a little bit of graphite on the, I suppose it's the outside of the main curves, or the inside of it, whichever way you want to look at it, and soften that down, then you can sort of accentuate the look that it is overlapping. Okay, I'll do another one here. So, go with what you want to do, with how you feel it might look best for you with the shading. So, if you're doing it this way, make sure you've got a nice sharp pencil so you can be most defined with your laying down your graphite. And I'd suggest you have a reasonably new tortillon again, so that you've got an area that is most precise. So you can see that one has a little bit more solid around, or graphite around the orbs. These ones start layering. I'm going to pop my pencil aside for a minute. Another way that I absolutely love doing, and I use my pen, I'm using a 01, is to add some hatching. And hatching, and I'll do it this way, is light little flick lines just in away from those points into each little Boofont petal. This is so calming. I love doing hatching like this on all sorts of tangles. And when you do this, it's a light flick. So you pop your pen down and add, I'm going to do it here. You get more ink in the base where you've popped your pen down initially. And then you get these light feather-like lines coming out, and it's like a little touchdown and flick. You can use a much finer pen if you want, a 005, but I find a 01 works pretty well. And if you use a different colour, you can add, you might have drawn in black, but if you do these in a different colour, then you can accentuate and make a different colour. So there we are. That is a very, very simple example of the tangle Boofont. Okay, so let me just show you. I'll move this aside. I'll just give you some examples. Here I drew a very simple square border really, and then I've added one row of Boofont followed by another row of Boofont and added the shading so you can make it as a frame. I've done the same here with a little 3Z, and as you can see I've used blue, and I've used blue for the hatching, a little bit of white jelly roll just in those orbs, and a little bit of dark shading around the edge there. So again, another very pretty way to use it. To use it as a tangle, monotangle on its own, very sort of simple. You can get lost in this, enjoying it. So there we are again on a 3Z. And then finally with another tangle. This was a class I taught a little while ago, and I've done ratoon, the tangle ratoon, and then filled behind, used it as a filler to fill behind. So go away, have some fun, and I look forward to seeing what you create with the tangle Boofont. Thank you very much.